Hello everyone, Stories here, and the competition has finally gotten underway. Today, I'll be explaining how the first round of voting for live Royal Fes will work, including the scheduling and voting breakdowns, and some of my personal thoughts on the voting itself. Quick note before I begin, this video will only cover the first round of LRFes voting. Details for future rounds have not been announced yet, and when they are, I'll try to make videos to correspond with them. So, with that out of the way, let's dive right into it. So for a brief overview of what Live Royal Fes is, or LRFes for short, it's the festival that takes place during AAside that brought all the bands together to Tokyo. It's a fierce competition that will grant the winner amazing prizes, such as company support from its sponsor Duck River, one of the top 3 record labels in the world, and a chance to debut internationally, as well as gaining recognition and wealth in the process. But there's a catch. If you participate in the festival and lose, you can never re-enter. For each band, this is their first and last chance to win. So everyone must put in 200% in order to gain audience vote to make them the winner. And the audience just so happens to be us. No pressure or anything, right? The voting for round 1 began on May 20th and will last until sometime in August. The first round will have a preliminaries and a finals, or outpost and main battle as I'm getting from Google Translate. Point being, this round will be split into 2 parts, which I will refer to as the first and second to avoid confusion. To vote in the first part, you must buy at least one of the following: Argonavis' 4th single, Junction Y, the new singles that will be released for each band on July 14th, or specified merchandise. Each will contain a serial code to enter for your vote. Regular edition singles will be worth 1 vote, while limited editions will be worth 5. Merchandise is also worth either 1 or 5 votes each. This voting will last until July 25th, in which the results will be announced near the end of the month, and points will be rewarded accordingly. If you are able to purchase the eligible merchandise and vote in the first part, the link to the site to vote will be in the description below. Make sure you choose the correct form to fill, as there are differences between the 1 and 5 vote forms, and correctly input your email, otherwise you won't get a confirmation email. Codes are not tied to certain bands, and can be used to vote for any band you wish. As well, if you have multiple codes and would like to vote for multiple bands, you must enter separate forms to do so. Otherwise, you can use up to 10 codes for 1 band in a single form. 5 vote codes cannot be separated into single votes. The second part of voting will begin on July 31st. The difference between the two is that the second part will occur inside the game and use in-game items as a means to vote. As well, points rewarded at the end of this voting will be tripled compared to the first part. Other than that, there haven't been any details given as to how the voting will work, but it's safe to assume they'll be announced closer to July. After the second part of voting ends, points from both parts will be tallied up and a winner of the first round overall will be declared. So you might be wondering, if points are worth more in the second half of voting, why vote at all in the first? Well, that's just it, you don't really have to. The first part of voting is basically just setting up for the second, putting bands at more or less of a disadvantage depending on where they rank. In the grand scheme of things, it still might not feel like it matters as much, but it does make things more exciting. We could see a major upset between rankings. And it encourages merch sales. But really, there's no worry if you aren't able to buy the eligible merch. It won't bar you from voting in-game when the time comes. And as for how many points will be awarded after each vote, take a look at this chart. As you can see, depending on where a band ranks, it will affect how many points they'll receive. Of course, if the same band wins first each time, then it doesn't really matter, but because the points are so close, it truly could be anyone's round to win. Even if the second part rewards more points, all it takes is 1 to make or break first place. I actually did a bit of math to break down the possible score totals. As you can see, there are overlaps in total scores, meaning it is totally possible for a band that ranked low in the first part to be able to catch up if they rank high in the second part. And in the event of a tie between 2 bands, the winner will be decided based on the rankings the bands achieved in the second vote. So, for example, say Epsilon Phi and Phantom Iris both scored 16 points at the end of round 1. However, Phantom Iris ranked second in the second vote, while Epsilon Phi ranked first. Even though they have the same point total, this would declare Epsilon Phi the winner between the two, since they ranked higher in the second part of voting. So, what happens after round 1 ends? Well, there are prizes! The top 3 ranking bands will receive new in-game accessories to customize only the winning band members with, and the first place band of the round will get a special album featuring new art that will become 3-star cards in-game. But that's not all. depending on the results, this will affect the main storyline of the game. The fate of the story is literally in our hands. Well, kinda, sorta. I'm assuming, or at least hoping, that the effects to the main story will be limited to 5 different scenarios depending on which band wins, with an overarching plotline that won't change no matter who wins. But at this point, I can't say for sure what they'll do. Please, writers, I trust you. So, if you'd like to vote but aren't able to purchase any merch, go download the game if you're able. Help support your favorite band into August. Originally, I was a bit hesitant with the notion of paid voting since it could easily spiral into a pay-to-win situation, but when they announced later that that would be a smaller portion of the voting system with a way to vote in-game, that put me at ease. So, with all that said, you're probably thinking I'm obviously going to vote for Argo Novice. I mean, an album, accessories, a chance to sway the main story in their favor, why wouldn't I? And, well, that is a good guess, and I did actually use my code to vote for them. I'm actually unsure about wanting them to win. And I don't just mean that for this round. I'm unsure about this whole voting process in general. See, it's been a few months since the game release. We've gotten more stories and infos on all the bands and characters, which have put some things into a new perspective. And right now, the whole of LRFes bothers me in a way. Actually, ever since it was brought up way back when the game was just announced, something always felt a bit off about it. I mean, for me at least, when I think of a festival, it's usually something a bit more lighthearted and fun. Even if there's selected talent, it's to showcase the performances to entertain the audience and bring a certain mood and atmosphere to the event. But LRFes doesn't feel like any festival I've known before. In comparison to Destiny Rock Fest, for example, a top-renowned music festival, even with its status, that felt much more like a typical festival. LRFest, on the other hand, feels very all or nothing. I guess when a major record label is backing it, there has to be some bar set, but it still makes me feel a bit uneasy. And on top of that, I've noticed how certain members of each band bother me in terms of their attitude towards the festival. This is just coming from what I've observed, and it might be that I'm misinterpreting things, but to me, these members, in their own ways, have expressed their disinterest and lack of investment in the festival itself, especially in comparison to many of their fellow band members. And what's really interesting is that these members are the vocalists themselves. Run expresses his unwillingness to compete because he doesn't understand why there should be winners and losers in music, and in a way is holding Argo Novice back. Naito believes he'll achieve his goals with or without this festival and treats it the same as anything else music-related with no real attachment to it. Felix joined for his own amusement and is willing to throw this chance away if he gets bored. Futa is only interested in having fun and doesn't care about the actual competition, even saying there's no point in competing if they aren't having fun. And Shu, well, he straight up says he doesn't know why he entered. Being the son of the head of Duck River, who despises his father, he wants no part of the company, going so far as to make his own record label behind his father's back. Not to mention, he currently seems much more interested in causing trouble for the rest of the bands. It all feels so strange that the vocalists, who you would expect to be the most invested, just aren't. It's funny, at first I did think I was definitely gonna vote for Argo Novice. Then I thought about it more and thought that maybe for the story and individual band development's sake, Phantom Iris should win. But now after learning even more about each band and the entire situation as a whole, I actually don't want any of them to win. And that might sound kind of extreme, and believe me, I love me some good drama and competition, but I feel like this would be the best outcome for not only the bands themselves, but for the story. Which might sound kind of strange, like, how would it be possible to have a festival with no winners? Someone has to win. Well, not necessarily. I mean, how can you win a competition if the competition itself doesn't exist anymore? See, with the whole notion that no band gets a second chance at LRFes, and the possible concerns with how the main storyline could be affected by votes, not to mention the shady vibes we've been getting from LRFes as a whole, a certain theory, or perhaps a prediction, maybe both, has started to circle. One that involves no one winning or losing. Rather, a bit of a revolution, so to speak. An overthrow of LRFes. All the bands coming together, the 5 main vocalists at the forefront of the operation. And Haruka too, because I want him there, he deserves vocalist rights. In terms of what kind of resolution I want for this arc of the main story, this is 100% my dream plot twist. Of course, this is all speculation at this point, but as the song AAside says itself, Regardless of what happens, though, I'm eager to see it through. And that's all I have for now. Make sure to keep supporting your favorite band, whether it be through votes or just being a fan of theirs. And remember, even with all this talk of voting and such, no monetary amount or in-game voting system can ever measure how much of a fan you truly are. That's only up to you. And with that, until we meet again,